Oh, good. And you can just look at me. Hey, Karen, could you just hand me my pen there, please?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, to everybody joining us on Facebook Live, Hot 97, Fox 5, we're here with the one and only Faith Evans.
Hey, guys.
There's so much to talk about. Yes. We're excited to have you here.
I'm so happy to see you.
Oh my God, it's great to see you. And we're going to get started with the official Fox 5 interview here, which you're going to see tonight at 10 on Fox 5 News, Thursday at 5 on Fox 5 News, and Friday night on Street Soldiers at 10:30. So you don't want to miss. So I just want to start out with talking with you about the album and the whole like people are just like, wow, what a great idea, like this is amazing. Yeah, we're going to have a conversation. No, really, it's. But okay. Faith, a lot of people, there's a lot of buzz around The King and I. What gave you the idea to do this type of an album with your vocals, some from Biggie, different artists, different sounds? Where did you even come up with this concept?
The concept to do a duet project with Big's vocals posthumously was inspired actually by Natalie Cole when she did Unforgettable with her dad. And I remember telling Ms. Wallace, after I heard that song and saw the video, that would be really dope if I could do something like that one day with Chris's vocals. But it was really just a thought, and I kind of left it right there as something I told her it would be dope to do, and didn't really move on it, or never had a plan of how, if, when, but a couple of years ago my attorney actually reminded me of the idea. It was like, hey, we should go meet with the people who acquired the masters and see if they want to do business. So they were very excited, and I have a great body of work to show for all of their excitement and all of my, all of the time that from when I thought about it to now, I've grown so much as an artist. So it was just a great big deal for me to be able to get in there and do what I wanted to do with Big's vocals,
And you work with a lot of different artists too that had connections to you and to him.
Yes.
Tell me about that. How did you, the album we've heard, the NYC, which a lot of people really love. It's a great song. But then how did you come up with the track list and all the songs? For those of us who are not artists, how do you do that?
Well, initially, before I even pursued the deal, but I knew I was, it was probably going to happen, I actually started by finding Big's acapellas online, because I really didn't know which of his vocals they were going to actually have. I'm thinking I'm going to walk into a big vault somewhere, But I started with what I could find online, and I had an idea of 2 songs of his that I knew if I ever did the project I would want to redo, and that was the 10 Crack Commandments and Me and My Beat. So I found those acapellas online, and I was with a producer in Detroit, and I was like, I think I want to go and start doing something for this album. I'm excited because I think I'm really going to do a deal for it. And from there on, everything just started coming together so seamlessly. I amazed myself, because every song was I don't know how I was going to do it, didn't know, but it's really coming together. I feel like Big's blessing and his spirit was definitely there.
And then in terms of the actual songs and the way that they were put together, that was your vision. And what was the reaction?
Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. I didn't even answer that question. I talk so much.
No, it's fine.
How I went about it, I would go in, listen to his acapellas, decide, okay, do I want to use this as a hook? It was not a challenge creatively, because I'm a producer, I'm a writer, and an artist. But I would go in and first decide where I wanted to use his vocals. So I kind of okay, it would be best to not use them in the same ways they're used to hearing them, because some of them are familiar rhymes, So I would break it up, sing back and forth with them, rap back and forth with them, depending on if it was a song with a feature like Snoop and Jadakiss and the rest of the features. I would either be in the studio with them saying, what do you think? But I think it should be this way, It was just a different approach almost every time, but either way I started with his raw acapellas to figure out, okay, what part of this song is it that we feel is the strongest part to kind of make that the hook that you're going to hear all the time. That people that are creative people and producers and songwriters kind of get where I'm coming from with
right.
it. So it was every day just something different, to be quite honest, because every song to me has a totally different flavor, you know?
No, it does, totally. There's tremendous diversity there. And just the sounds are so different from the ones we've been able to hear. In terms of going through, listening to his voice and being that close to his creativity again, that must have brought up a lot of feelings for you.
You know what? I didn't go through any like emotional stuff, like, you know, where I was, you know, reflective. I think because we hear Big's vocals still, we hear his songs all the time. So that wasn't really an issue. I think, if anything, I was like figuring out lines that I thought I knew all this time, that I'm, oh, that's what he's saying. Oh, okay. Oh, I get it. He was real clever. Like, you know, things like that. I mean, there were a couple of tracks where I'm in the session, you could hear in the sessions, like they would be in the booth, maybe Puff or Big or one of Junior Mafia, and there's a girl in there like, you know, in the background. So it was, you know, it was interesting. I'd just be like, fast forward to Big's verse. But I mean, it was just so much fun. I'm so excited. I can't wait for you to hear the whole project. Just how, you know, I'm proud. If you can't tell,
you should be proud. No, you should be proud. And then all the artists that you had, that everybody that's involved with it, you got so many people involved with it.
Yeah, and you know, I guess because of the fact that everybody loves Big, you know what I mean? And I didn't find it a problem to get people to be a part of the project, obviously. I'm really excited that Little Kim is on the album, which is something that I know our fans have been waiting for a long time. And I actually tried to reached out to her about doing something a few albums ago, some years ago, and it didn't happen, but I never imagined that it would happen for a project like this, because I never knew that I was going to really actually one day do the project, you know, so that's really a good thing. I'm excited about that. I got Little C's, Buster's on the album, Snoop and Jadakiss, obviously, Styles P and Chic from the Locks, Chic Luch from the Locks. Am I forgetting anyone? No, I think that's it.
Yeah, a lot of people.
But it's a nice, you know, assortment of dope artists who obviously have a mutual respect and love for Big, you know?
And also a way too, is it true, like to really kind of like put his legacy into a new framework for CJ and for Tiana?
Absolutely. It is certainly part of my duty to extend his legacy. And, you know, if I were not a artist and producer and creative person, maybe I would have never thought about doing it. But at the same time, I mean, it's like, I think, you know, I have pretty much a big right to do something like this, you know what I'm saying? And it's my duty, like I said, you know, so why not use my creativity and my ability to still do business with people and remain at least somewhat relevant, I think, in this industry. Why not use it toward extending his legacy, you know what I mean? Because that's something that the kids, one day if they want to, if CJ's an artist as well, so he may one day want to do something, you know, if not an album, you know, but he may one day want to be able to use his dad's stuff for something. You never know. So, but he has every right to do it as well, you know?
No, and you're bringing so much to it, because in these past 20 years, all of your achievements with the Grammys, with the platinum albums, all the work that you've done as a songwriter, producer, and an artist too, gave you, I'm sure, so much more to draw on.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's what I'm saying. Like it was just not as much of a task as I thought it would be before I actually, you know, started to pursue making the record. You know, I'm like, well, I guess I have been doing this for a long time. But I guess initially I probably thought for a quick minute, like, I wonder, you know, I hope it's going to be good. Like, I hope it's good. I hope I do it, you know, but I didn't feel that way for long. It just kind of just came together. And I'm like, well, just do what you do. And just, you know, I just wanted to make sure I preserve the integrity, you know, of it, and not just put out anything. I could have easily just done anything, but I took my time and took almost 2.5 years to create the project. And when initially we thought it would be released last year, I was kind of promoting it as coming out last year, but I just didn't feel, you know, it wasn't ready. And at the same time, I wanted to have enough time to tell people about it ahead of time. I didn't want to just throw something out there, so I wanted us to have a good plan in place, and because it's a very special project to me.
Oh, very special. And then when you know, going through it and then going back to when you were with Big and when you guys were together, is it true you guys got married after knowing each other 9 days?
No, the 9 days thing, I don't even know how that's still I mean, I've clarified it a lot, but no, it wasn't 9 days. It was more like 2 months, maybe close to a little under 2 months, which is still a very short period of time.
Not when you're in
but
love.
it wasn't 9 days. But right, you know, it was, I didn't feel any way about it. You know, he really made me feel like, yeah. I'm like, are you serious? He kept reminding me, like, did you check with your homeboy that got married up there at the courthouse? You know, because I'm like, you're really serious? Like, okay, let's do it, you know?
And that was it.
That was it.
And how did you meet him?
Big and I met at a photo shoot that Puff had arranged for his artist that he had just signed to the label. And I think it was just Big, myself, and Craig Mack that ended up there that day. And I was looking through some pictures. I don't know if you remember Hurricane G from the Hit Squad.
Mm-hmm.
She's a friend of mine, so I dropped my daughter off at Redman's house in Newark before I went to this photo shoot. Gloria was at Redman's house. She asked me after my shoot, could I drop her off in Brooklyn? And I get to the shoot. Biggie didn't know I was even signed to the label. He said he used to see me coming in and out the studio. I didn't know him at all. And I'm sure in his mind, he's probably like, because Gloria was somewhat popular at that time. He's probably like, how does she know her? And when he found out I was dropping her off in Brooklyn, he asked me, could I drop him and the guys off? So, oh boy, that's when it all started. Crash course in hanging out with Biggie and the crew. And it was jokes all the way to Brooklyn. And when I dropped him off at his mom's house, he was like, I'm going to call you. And I was like, okay, but I hadn't given him my number. So the next day he did call me. And I was like, how did you get my number? And he was like, you remember you was looking through those pictures at the photo shoot. You know, back then you had to get your pictures developed and write your number on the envelope.
Right.
And he had taken my phone number off of the envelope. And I was like, I thought that was just so cute. Like, yeah. Okay, you little, yeah, all right. I just, you know, I think he kind of got me early on. Plus, you know, before that I had already that car ride to Brooklyn. So I was like, okay, I think I didn't immediately think, oh, we're going to be together and get married.
Right.
But I definitely liked him. I was like, oh, he's funny, he's fun. And he's trying to holler at me too, you know. It had nothing to do with the artist thing because, you know, I was an artist too.
Right, exactly. No, totally. No, that's awesome.
I think we definitely fell for each other very quickly.
It sounds like
But it was real. It was real.
No, definitely. And then when you look at, you know, as we're on the eve of the 20th anniversary of him being killed tomorrow, do you feel any kind of way like 20 years later we still don't have anybody who's been arrested for that? There's no justice. Does that bother you at all?
It certainly bothers me, but I wouldn't say it bothers me, or I don't feel any differently about his loss, about losing him today as I did in previous years, you know. But what I can say, I mean, on the flip side, it is very sad that so much time has gone by, and although people still talk about it so very much, that nothing has been done to bring anyone to justice. But I mean, I've always maintained that Miss Wallace and I feel like, you know, we sort of have an idea of what happened and who's responsible, but it's really about the LAPD saying that they do as well, which may never happen. So all we can do is just, continue to uphold his legacy and continue to celebrate the wonderful person he was and the great life that he did live in those short years amount of years that he was here with us, you know.
And do you still feel the LAPD, and they were a big mess at that time when that happened, a lot of corruption and a lot of scandals going on. Do you still feel like they know more, or somebody who was connected with them knows more about what really happened?
I definitely do, without a doubt. I mean, you've got to remember, although we are not actively spending our money on attorneys to keep pursuing something that we kind of see is not gonna, it's not gonna.
You can only go but so far.
Exactly.
Right.
So it just doesn't make sense financially, but at the same time, excuse me, we do feel like they know something. We do. We've been in court, we've been in depositions, we've been in, all types of meetings and talked to all types of people, heard a whole bunch of different stories, and, we feel like they know.
Are you surprised that there's still so much public interest in the fans, or there's still so much love for his music and love for him and just curiosity about him?
I'm not surprised, because, from a fan perspective, if I was just a fan, I know that his music is so. I mean, you know, if you put, he still could stand toe to toe with anybody right now with any of those records that are 20 or more years old. You know, so I think that love for him and knowing that and hearing the great stories about the person he really was and the fact that he was taken away so soon. I mean, it's obviously going to be a certain interest and you know, people are going to still want to talk about it because it just wasn't solved.
Right.
At least, you know, to
and
them.
The music is still so current.
And the music is still current. We hear him all the time. I'm not surprised though, because he just was so dope. You know what I mean? Did I know then? I had no idea. You know, I didn't know any of the things that happened for Bad Boy, the movement. I didn't know how big a movement it was, but it felt good, and I was having fun. And I know him too. He was trying to make some money and get up off the street. So, you know, I think I'm most proud of the fact that I truly believe if he was able to, you know, which he probably has said, what he would want his legacy to be. I think he probably surpassed that, you know, because I think we probably had very minimal. I won't say minimal dreams, but you know, I never dreamed that number one, we would have the success. You know, obviously never knew we were going to lose him, but you know, I'm just really thankful for just being able to still be here and talk about it, but talk about it and be joyful in thinking about him, you know, because he was just such a dope person. And we're actually, the family is actually doing a documentary with with A&E Films, and it's a depiction of him, the person outside of music, the funny stories that we still laugh at 20 years later as if it happened yesterday. So I'm looking forward to kind of people getting a glimpse of that side of him, those that haven't already, you know, because there were so many dope things about him that if you listen to his songs, you might think a whole different thing. But it's like, even when his mom found out that we were married and he didn't want me to tell her and didn't want me to meet her, and I finally was like, listen, I can't take it anymore. Like the way he had his head bowed and like almost had a tail tucked between his legs, which Christopher, like people that probably don't realize he was like a mama's boy, you know, really like, don't let my mom be mad at me type of thing.
It's so crazy. Well, tell us about his sense of humor too, because that's one thing people that knew him, you know, that doesn't really come through in a lot of the music and a lot of the.
Yeah, Big had jokes. They had a way of making a nickname for almost anybody in the room, and you know, that person probably would never know what that name was about, or even that was their nickname. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, it would be based on a joke about them. He was very good for that. Very good for making jokes about people. But then he would actually eventually have to tell you to your face too, because ultimately that person would be like, "Why y'all laugh every time I come in the room? Why y'all saying this word every time I walk by?"
That's so awesome. And what about with CJ? Are there certain things do you see with him that you see are reminiscent of Big, or?
Oh yes, it's so funny because we always talk about how you know, CJ was 3-4 months old when Big passed, so it's not like he got to know him or be around him and see him to mimic things, you know. But as he's grown up, I've noticed a lot of things. Like, you know, Big used to have like this asthma thing, and he used to rub his nose really hard. CJ does the same thing the same way with the same finger. Like he flicks his 2 toes together like his dad did all the time. And I'm like, that is so crazy. Like even, you know, C's and everybody, they always notice those stuff. Like, why does he do that just like Big, yo? I'm like, isn't that crazy? Like he never saw him do that. But you know, that is just amazing. It's funny, you know, and his little laid back sense of humor. CJ's very laid back like his dad, you know. He has a little sly sense of humor.
There's that sense of humor, and also an interest in the music industry too.
Oh, definitely an interest in the music business industry. He does music with his brother. They're kind of a little group. He sings and raps, and he's actually still pursuing acting as well. So I'm really proud of him.
That's fantastic. What about your career as a woman in the music? You know, this is Women's History Month and all that. And as a woman in the music business, you've achieved so many important milestones with awards, with sales, with your career, and just continue to grow and evolve as an artist. And It's really incredible. What do you? It really is. I mean, it's a huge achievement, and for women that are looking to you, saying, "How did she do it?" You know, how did you do it? Do you have any wisdom you want to impart on women or girls that are going like, "Wow, she's just done so much"?
Well, I guess when it's like an answer thing, because you know I do often talk to people about things, but it's typically when they ask me a direct question like, "How would you do this?" But I think the key to me sustaining myself is really just my faith in God more than anything, and kind of always knowing that He's got my back. You know, I think from a very young age, I never intended on being a recording artist. I always had the gift of music, so you know, to end up being a recording artist, that was not something I planned on. So there's a lot of things that if that was just my focus, you know, I probably would have done things different, research things. But I'm so not mad at the trial and error thing, because the fact is that through all of the trials and errors, I've never felt like I can't do this, or you know what I mean. This was a whole new world for me to be a recording artist and not a gospel one, because I grew up in the church. You know what I mean. So it was a little bit different, a different world, a different, you know. But I think I did pretty good. I kind of just came in, and I never really had an agenda other than just making money using my gift. You know what I mean? And I've always felt like, you know, I know my strength. I know that there's a reason I'm here. And I've also felt like, you know, just to be, it's a blessing to be able to be here. You know what I mean? And I think that's very important, to not look at it like you're so entitled to something because you have you're blessed with a gift. Right. It's a blessing for people to want to hear you, for you to be able to talk to people about what you're doing. You know what I mean? So I've always known that was important, to kind of understand that there's always a lot of talent. It could be another person. So, you know, just try and, you know, stay humble and appreciate the things that I am able to do. You know, it could be worse, it could be better, but I'm happy with my walk. You know, I'm very happy. And I know that I haven't reached my peak yet. So I'm excited. I got a lot of ideas that I still want to bring forth, you know.
That's incredible. And the way, to bring back to the King and I, you're working this album like this was your first album. You're a brand
That's
new
exactly how it feels, right?
And brand new artist.
Like
I mean, you are like here, you're in this city, you're on this plane, you're driving here, they're jetting you here, all over the place, and really doing that person-to-person contact with the fans.
I miss that, and the funny thing is, my radio rep, I hate using that word, but we were in the car going from up the coast of California from station to station, and you know, a lot of people are, you know, obviously like thanks for coming. I'm like, what? I love doing this. I miss this stuff.
Right.
You gotta remember, I came from the school of bad boys, so we definitely
work records.
We had to work, and I mean, I thought that was just a part of it. And I went independent for a few albums, and I didn't get to do that as much, so I really miss it. This is, to me, the fun part. Being able to tell, that's the whole point. I want people to know about it, you know?
Right.
And maybe they'll tell someone else, and maybe they'll tell someone else, and eventually someone will be interested and get the album, I hope. That's the goal.
It's definitely, I'm sure they will. So you're feeding off that energy from the fans too, because there's been, honestly, not to gas you over, but there has been a lot of buzz, especially about the New York joint. There's just been a lot of buzz about this whole project, and wow,
I'm really happy.
It's the whole album. It's not like, you know, a lot of people too now, they'll drop a song and then you're waiting a year or 2 years for the album to come out, but you got it all ready to drop in May.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I mean, my faithfuls, shout out to my faithfuls, because they always, you know, they make me feel like I'm Beyonce or somebody in terms, you know what I mean? I know I'm not the most commercially successful artist, which is fine with me, but I just love the fact that I have these fans that really
love you.
They love me. They sing the old songs real loud at my shows. They come to another city to see me, and I'm always very appreciative, and I don't want to say surprised, because some of them I already got to know, so I know you're my fan. But it still surprises me if there's a new person like, I love you. I'm like that? Like, you like me like that? That's a great feeling. But I don't just expect it. You know what I mean? So I'm just happy that there is still interest in Faith Evans and what she got to sing and say and all of that stuff.
And still going up.
I got to keep going. I got to.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's why I was made, to just keep it moving.
Keep it moving and keep it going. No, it's fantastic.
Thank you.
No, I really appreciate you talking with us.
Oh, thank you. It's so good to see you again too. I can't wait to tell Miss Wise a story. She loves you to death.
No, that's awesome. And let me just ask you to come back tomorrow, because a lot of people are making a big deal about this being the 20th anniversary. Do you go through in your mind at times, like when you heard that he had passed, or when you had heard that had happened in Los Angeles?
I often do, but not. This doesn't necessarily happen around March 9th.
Right.
To be honest, if I wasn't out, excuse me, on my radio run, I would probably just be at home. I really wouldn't be doing anything on March 9th.
Right.
I probably in the 20 years have only been to one party, and that was because I happened to be in the city doing some other stuff and seizing them like, come hang out, you know. And but other than that, I mean, although it's a day that obviously is in history as the day we lost Big, but it's never been a day that I particularly want to like treat like a day to do a party. I mean, you know, and that's no disrespect to people who do that stuff.
Right,
I understand, because it's like a holiday, and that's not a bad thing. That just lets you know that the impact he had on the world, to be quite honest. But you know, I for obvious reasons, I just kind of, and maybe I've even been guilty of kind of tuning it out in my own mind, because sometimes I don't even realize it's that date until
you got
someone will call
on.
me, or I'll see, you know,
Right.
the post about like, oh God, it is March 9th, you know. But it is what it is, and you know, it's still times when I do think about that night. Like, for example, Heavy D, rest in peace, who was just an absolute sweetheart. He was actually the person that told me he thinks something happened to Big. So every time I either get on a conversation about Heavy, I go to that memory too, you know, because he and I were really close as well.
Did he call you, or?
Well, actually, you know, there was the vibe party,
Right.
And then there was an after party at a house up in Hollywood Hills. So I left the vibe party on my way to the other party park, walking up to the house, and just thinking I'm going to see Big inside. Maybe we'll speak then, because
Right.
we saw each other at the last party, but we, you know, just doing our little immature thing.
Right.
And I'm like, I'll see him later, you know. And Hev stopped me, like, as I was walking up the hill, because he was in a car driving down, and he was like, yo, Faith, come here. I think something happened to Big. And I immediately, my mind went back to, we heard something in the parking lot at the party, but we didn't know anything. We didn't know what it was, you know, we didn't know what happened, you know. So I just immediately started thinking about that. Like, was that gunshots we heard? Was that, you know, we just didn't know. There was no Instagram and all of that stuff. And I just started feeling really weird and shaking and praying in the car on the way to the hospital. He's like, I think you should go to the hospital. And I'm thinking, like, hospital? This is like something happened to him. And I just kept praying, like, God, please let him be okay. Please let him be okay. And they took me to the hospital, and I was taken in the room with, you know, Puff and all of them were there waiting. And I could just tell by the looks on their faces that there wasn't anything really good to say, you know, or anything that seemed like it could be it just didn't look good. It felt wrong. It felt bad, you know. And I just kind of froze. I don't even know if I was able to get a sound, a tear. I just kind of sat and stared at the floor and the walls once the doctor actually came and told me that we lost him. And once they told me I couldn't go see him. Because in my heart, I honestly felt like, let me see him. He's going to be fine. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
If whatever happened, let me just go, you know, talk to him, touch him, make a joke. You know, come on, I'm here. Right. You know, we've been acting crazy, but I'm here. I got you. And they told me I couldn't see him. And although I didn't understand why, I also didn't know what the situation, because they said something about the nature of crime. And I'm like, but, you know, I didn't realize I still should have been able to see him as his wife.
Right.
But I didn't argue because I was in shock. I was, you know, I didn't know what to do. I just sat there and stared at the floor until Puff and them had my friend come and get me and take me out of there, because I just was stuck. I was stuck.
But it's great, though, that you're taking his legacy now and giving the world and his fans around the time of his birthday this whole new way to look at him, and you have some things on the album too that have never been heard before. Is that true?
Yes, I do have a few unheard verses, because they were actually his demo vocals when he wrote some stuff for Junior Mafia. Actually, one from a Lil Kim album, a Lil Kim record as well. So that was fun. You know, I had never heard them myself. You know, so I'm like, oh, okay, he wrote that, because certain words on the actual record that were different than what Big said. So, but I'm like, oh, I know this rhyme. It was interesting doing that because I'm like, well, how will people receive that? You know, do they think, oh, I thought they wrote all their rhymes? But it's like, no, I think it's been documented that Big did write a lot for his artists. You know,
right.
He wanted to make sure it was hot. And it might have been a situation where we got to get this done today. So I ain't about to wait for you to turn in your verse. But I think what makes it interesting is that we've never heard it. You know,
yeah,
people want to hear
absolutely.
it. And it sounds just like it would have been his rhyme, you know?
That's incredible. So May 19th.
May 19th.
King and I.
And it's available for pre-order now.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? Miss Wallace is on the album too.
Oh, that's right. Let me just ask you about that.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a very close relation with Miss Wallace, with Biggie's mom, and she's on the album.
She is. She's on the album, and she didn't even know it until I told her, because I was trying to do a personal documentary, you know, about me some years ago, and I just had all this footage compiled. And so once I was done with recording the full songs on the album, I started to try and think about the sequence and putting it in a almost chronological order, in order of the events in our relationship. And I was looking online to see little interviews or things that people were saying about us, or, you know, and then I'm like, Miss Wallace, let me find Miss Wallace stuff, because there's a lot of funny stuff in that, and she's so hilarious. And I realized that I had all this video footage of her talking about how she felt when we first got together. So I'm like, maybe if I take some of this and chop it up and put music underneath and put it in between, this would perfectly tell the story. So, you know, I'm like, Mima, you on the album? She said, am I getting my publishing? I said, yes, I got you. I got them setting up your publishing company right now.
You got the papers for you to sign right now.
She said, am I getting my publishing? I know that's right, Mima.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending so much time with us. And
thank you, my
can't
pleasure.
Can't wait to hear the whole album.
My
really.
pleasure. I can't wait for you to hear it. And
yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank y'all for tuning in.
And thank you everybody on Facebook. That was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're just, Andre, you want to just get like a 2-shot? Or?
Yeah, give me a second and I'll
Okay.
pull out to a 2. All right, let me just see you.
Could you just hit end? Yeah, thank you.